Hello students, today's topic is, as you can see on the board, Human Development Index in India. In short, it is called HDI. What do you mean by HDI? HDI means it has been developed by Mahbub ul Haq. He happened from Bangladesh and Inji Kaul, and was also assisted by Indian economist Amartya Sen in formulating this formula. And this is now the unanimous formula adopted by UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and each year HDI is published for every country. After all, what is HDI? Before proceeding to HDI, we must understand the difference between growth and development. Friends, as you know, when we say there is a 5% growth of GDP from the previous year, what does this indicate? It is the measurement, and the measurement is the growth of the GDP from the previous year. Economists use this tool of growth in terms of the growth of GDP. But as you know, that GDP growth or simply growth or economic growth, it implies only quantitative improvement. It implies only quantitative improvement in the economic progress of a country. Secondly, growth means it shows national income and per capita income over a period of time. Thirdly, a country may grow. This is the important point. A country may grow, but it may not develop. Suppose a country is having 10% growth, but its infrastructure is very poor. Its social infrastructure may be poor. So, higher growth doesn't indicate the higher level of development, and that's why the economist uses another tool. And what is this? Human Development Index. And students, what do you mean by development? Development मतलब विकास हिंदी में. It indicates qualitative improvement in the economic progress of a country. Qualitative मान गुणवत्ता. Second, it shows that not only there is a sustained increase in the growth, economic growth, but also there is a qualitative change in the social sector, distribution sector, infrastructural facilities, reduction in mortality rate, reduction in adult illiteracy. All these are encompassed in the gamut of development. And also, development also includes growth. So, nowadays, economists use development instead of growth as a measurement of the progress in the economy of a country. So, friends, this one now you might have become clear. Now, the economists now use HDI for the measurement of the economy of a particular country, and this concept was developed by Mahbub ul Haq of Bangladesh and Inji Kaul, supported by Amartya Sen, Indian economist. So friends, this may be asked in your prelims examination. Secondly, HDI was to serve as a frame of reference for both social and economic development, as it is implied in growth. When I say growth, it means economic growth. But when I say development, it means not only economic growth, but also social growth. So it encompasses both social and economic growth. Now, there are three basic components of HDI. And what are those basic components? Number one, as I have written on the board, one is health, second is education, third is a standard of living. Friends, as you know, what is the meaning of the health? Health is measured by the life expectancy at birth of the HDI and is calculated using a minimum value of 20 years and maximum value of 83.7 years. This is the observed maximum value of the indicators from the countries in the series. Thus, the longevity component for a country where life expectancy at birth is 55 years would be 0.551. Second important component of HDI is education, and education has got two parts. One is the mean year of schooling. Mean year of schooling for adult aged 25 years. This is estimated based on educational attainment data from census and survey available in the UNESCO. And second is expected year of schooling. Expected year of schooling matlab these estimates are based on the enrollment by age at all level of education and population, and for each level of the education expected year of schooling is 18 years. And third is a standard of living. What do you mean by a standard of living? It is measured in terms of gross national income per capita at purchasing power parity. Students, I have already narrated you in the previous lecture that what does mean, what do you mean by purchasing power parity. And so this third standard of living is calculated on the basis of national gross national income per capita income at the PPP purchasing power parity in US dollars. And as you know that the goal post for the minimum is taken as $100 on a US dollar, 100 US dollar, and the maximum is the per capita income of Qatar, that is $87,478 in PPP terms. And this is the per capita income of Qatar. You might be knowing Qatar in the Gulf, and it has $87,478 per capita income in 2012. So the two goal posts, one minimum and second maximum, is taken for calculating the standard of living. So higher the per capita income, as you know, the standard of living will be also higher. So all these three components are taken together, and then by the method of geometric mean. Geometric mean means H into L into E. H into L into E, meaning by health into education into a standard of living, 3 over the root or 3 over the root of h into L into E. This is the formula of geometrical mean, and by this method, this HDI is calculated between 0 to 1, and the higher the number, say 9, what does this indicate? It means the higher HDI, and higher HDI denotes having highest developed country. So according to this formula, broad classification of country into 3 groups. According to this formula, there are 3 types of countries. One is high human development countries, that is between 0.800 to 1,000 points on the index, and these are the countries which are very much developed countries. And for example, USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Western European countries, South Africa, all these other countries are having highest human development index. The second categories are those countries which have medium development index, and these are under the bracket of 0.500 to 799 points on index. For example, India, China, Brazil, Arab countries, Southeast Asian countries. And for example, in India, what is the, and there are other categories, this is called low human development countries, and in this the index is lower than 500, say 499. This is called low human development country, and you will find those countries like sub-Saharan country in Africa and most of the countries of Asia or Latin America. They are under the category of low human development countries. So students, you might be, now you have come to know that there are 3 categories. And what is the performance of India? And according to the available sources, India's performance in SDI value for India was, in 2019 was 0.645, and its ranking was 131 out of 189 countries. Medium, it is under the category of medium human development category. So what we find, that in comparison to China, 189 countries. Total there are 189 countries which have been measured in terms of HDI by UNDP. There is one institution under the UN. Oh, you must understand this, and you must remember always. This is called UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and this agency calculates HDI for every country every year. So, in 2019, out of 189 countries which was measured in terms of HDI by UNDP, the ranking of India was 131. Earlier its position was 129. So 2 ranks, India slipped 2 ranks in 2 years because of pandemic or maybe another factor. So now you understand my point. But for as of now, the ranking of China is 85 in 2019. Indian SDI value in 2019 is 0.645. For China, it is 0.731 and has the rank of 85 amongst 189 countries. So China is very much ahead of us in terms of HDI. Second point is, now healthy life expectancy at birth was 69.7 years. I have already explained you in the earlier lecture that as per the census of 2011, you might be knowing that in our country every 10 years there is a census. Now because of this corona pandemic, census could not be conducted in this year because it was due. Earlier in 2011, the census was conducted, and according to that estimate, healthy life expectancy at birth was 69.7 years. This is the average. And for the other South Asian countries, it was life expectancy at birth was 69.9 years. So it is slightly lower from the Southeast Asian country. You may be knowing that what are the South Asian countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. All these are countries grouped under Southeast Asian nations. They are members of ASEAN. Between 1990 to 2019, India's life expectancy increased by 11.8 years. Students, as you know, that from 91 onwards, liberalization, privatization, globalization started in India, and I have already narrated you in the previous lecture. And because of the higher growth, since 1991, the life expectancy also increased by leaps and bounds, that is called by 11.8 years. Now we are coming to the access to knowledge. Expected years of schooling in India was 12.2 years. 12.2 years. Expected years of schooling in India is total, what is total year? It is 18 years. Out of 18 years, the expected years of schooling in India was 12.2 years. For Bangladesh, it is 11.2 years, lesser than India. And for Pakistan, it is 8.3 years. What does this indicate? It indicates that in terms of access to knowledge or education, Pakistan is very much lagging behind India. And this is also a cause of concern. Similar is the situation for Afghanistan. It is also having lesser years, expected years of schooling. And as you know, that nowadays Taliban has captured Afghanistan, and God knows what will be the fate in store for Afghanistani women who have been denied education, and particularly higher education. Now the situation will become more serious with the passage of time in Afghanistan. So friends, between 1990 and 2019, mean year of schooling increased by 3.5 years, and expected years of schooling increased by 4.5 years. What does this mean? The mean year of school now, the numbers of dropout in our country, particularly among the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, are coming down because of the so many projects launched by Government of India, like midday meal, like hostels for tribal students, scheduled caste students. Because you know that the maximum dropout, about 60 to 67%, are among scheduled caste and particularly scheduled tribes, and about 40 to 50% among scheduled caste. So students, between 1990 to 2019, there is a mean year of schooling increased by 3.5% and expected year of schooling increased by 4.5%. Jot down all. It is my humble request for all the students that don't only listen to my lecture but also start writing on the book, because it will give you a lot of confidence in writing or examination. So, third point is a standard of living is measured by gross national income per capita at purchasing power parity. I have told you. There is a nominal GDP. Tomorrow I will give you a lecture on the topic related to nominal GDP, purchasing power parity, gross national income per capita. What is the national income? All these economic terms will be covered tomorrow. So, gross national income per capita at purchasing power parity, PPP, is the gross national income per capita is also measured in terms of nominal GDP by calculating the exchange rate of two different countries. For example, if American dollar is 76 rupees, Indian rupees, so nominal GDP will be calculated on that basis. But purchasing power parity on the basis of PPP, how it will be calculated? Suppose 1 kilo of potato cost 1 rupee in India, but 1 kilo of potato cost $1 in America. What does this mean? Although this is a one article that I am giving example to, there will be so many articles, and then it is calculated by taking average. So, for example, cost of potato in India for 1 kg is 1 rupee. For 1 kg it is $1. What does this mean? It means that in terms of purchasing power parity, 1 rupee is equal to $1. And so that's why you students, you might be knowing that in terms of purchasing power parity, our country stands third in the world after China, USA, and then India. And this is the biggest achievement of our country after independence. So, now the goal post is one for maximum and another for minimum. Minimum is 100 American dollar and maximum is $87,478 at the PPP. For the Qatar, which is the highest, Qatar, it is a Gulf country, and so in 2012, and so by the formula from between maximum and minimum, the gross national income per capita at PPP is calculated. How it is calculated, that I will give you example tomorrow. So, students, what is the present position for India? Gross national income per capita at US dollar in India is 6,681 American dollar. And this means our country has fared better than most of the developing countries. Now, India GNI per capita increased. GNI matlab gross national income per capita increased by 273.2% between 1990 to 2019. What does this indicate? It means that from the time of liberalization, privatization, globalization adopted by the government of India, the growth rate has increased very much in comparison to previous years because economy was opened up. Now there was no danger of neo-colonialism in India, as that was the danger when India became independent in 1947. So Indian government opened its economy for global market, and what was its outcome? The outcome was large investment from foreign bodies, from foreign individuals, giving a boost to the economy. And in 2009, the growth rate reached even 9%. That was a biggest achievement. You might be knowing that from 1980 to 2010, for 30 years, the growth rate of China was around 10%. And that's why Chinese economy went so much big in comparison to Indian economy. And now it is Chinese economy 5 times greater than that of Indian economy, about $15 trillion, and Indian economy is about $3 trillion. So because of this higher growth rate, it has its manifestation on the standard of living of the people. And you, as friends, you know that about 30 to 35 crores of people in India are in the bracket of middle class. And in America, the total population is about 30 crores. So you can understand how big Indian market has become. And that's why Americans, Chinese or other Western countries pump their monies into India. And Indian middle class has become a strong economic power in this country. Now, any point from anybody? Students, now I am switching over to lacuna of SDI. What are the weaknesses of SDI? When we measure any economy of a country through SDI model, what are the lacuna, what are the weaknesses, what are the lacking, what points are lacking in our calculation, which do not come before us while measuring SDI. So there are certain points that I have narrated, just point out, jot down it. One is cultural aspect of economy. Second is outlook towards aesthetics and purity of the environment. How much environment was disturbed? How much carbon emission occurred? And how ecological imbalances, how ecological balance has been disturbed, that doesn't come under the measurement of SDI. Third, it overlooks aspects related to rule and administration of the economy. It may happen that economy may be better, but the political masters are very much dictatorial in their attitude. Rule of law is gone. People are seething with discontent. The fourth lacuna is people's idea of happiness and prestige. HDI doesn't calculate as to how much people of particular country is having the state of their happiness or how much they have gained prestige. These points are overlooked. Now, ethical dimension of human life. In addition to the economic life of a person, he has also got ethical and a spiritual life, because it gives him mental peace. Without a spiritual and ethical life, a person can't be happy. But these aspects are not taken under consideration by HDI. Students, HDI also doesn't cover the development in the developed countries where what we see, there is a sexual perversion, trafficking of women, there is a lot of corruption, crime, sexual perversion, homicide, lot of people commit homicides because of the stress in the life, flesh trade, rape, moral degradation. All these vices in the human society are not taken under consideration under HDI. So, United Nations developed another measurement yardstick, and that was developed by Bhutan, a tiny state on the border of India in northeastern region, you might be knowing. And this is a Buddhist country. This concept is gross national happiness, GNH. Bhutan developed a new concept, and that is in 1972, and there are certain components of this GNH. What are those? Number one, higher per capita income. Second, good governance. Third is environmental protection. If you are degrading environment at the cost of development, there is no development at all. Because in coming days, you will have to face the music of the nature in the disguise of earthquake, tsunami, floods. So all the development that you have done will go to waste. So there is need of environmental protection while developing our economy. And fourth is cultural promotion, means to inculcate ethical and spiritual values in life. What does this mean? It means that not only economic growth, not only economic development, but also a spiritual development, ethical development is necessary for human being, so that they can lead happy life. So this is a new formula given by Bhutan. Now, students, what are the efforts of the government of India to enhance the Human Development Index? This may be asked in examination. So now I am switching over to this one. Efforts of Government of India to enhance the Human Development Index. Number one, promoting inclusive growth. Students, sometimes a question is asked on inclusive growth. to give your comment. What do you mean by inclusive growth? Inclusive growth means that aims to bring marginal and poor section of society into mainstream. In our Indian context, what it will mean? It will mean the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward classes, women or marginalized people, they must be brought within the mainstream so that utmost development of this community takes place. Focus on all-round development of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC and minorities. And Government of India launched Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana in 2014 and RuPay card, a digital payment solution in order to bring financial inclusion, insurance penetration and digitization. What does this mean? In our country, digitization has great importance or value. As you know, earlier when Government of India sent 1 rupee to the people at the grassroots level, the middleman took 85% of the 85 paisa and only 15 paisa reached to the common people, the marginalized people, the scheduled caste people. Others, the total 85 paisa were embezzled. Now through the digitization method and through direct benefit scheme, Government of India gives certain amount to the farmers, to the people of India, like 6,000 per year. Another point is for socio-economic empowerment of minorities. Friends, as you know, that about 20% like Muslims, Buddhists, Parsis, Sikhs, Jain, all these minority combined together, they form about 18 to 20%, and their empowerment is very necessary. Why? Because if they will be dissatisfied lot, there cannot be peace and tranquility or peaceful law and order in the society. So it is bounden duty in a democracy of the government to give socio-economic empowerment to minorities. And Government of India launched so many programs like educational loan for overseas education belonging to minorities, a scheme for skill development. Similarly, for the disabled, Viklang, yeah, today now they are called Divyang, because in our country 2.2% of population are disabled. Program for disabled, as you know, 2.2% population are disabled. Right of Person with Disability Act in 2016 has been enacted by the Government of India for securing and enhancing the entitlement of PWD, person with disabilities. They are called in short form PWDs. It includes 3 to 4% reservation for disabled people, and Accessible India campaign as a nationwide campaign for achieving universal accessibility for persons with disabilities. Third is education for all. As you know, that without education, no country can progress. And I have already told you that about in a developed country, then literacy percent is about 99.9%. In our country, according to 2011 census, it is about 70%, 71%. Now, the government of India, the main plank of the government of India is education for all. What does this mean? Free and compulsory education from 6 to 14 years under the ambit of right to education, which was enacted in 2009. Integrated scheme for school education, Samagra Shiksha, launched in 2018-19, including Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan and teacher education. It has been clearly stipulated that teachers must have training before, so that their teaching skill must be upgraded, and that's why teacher education is essential. Third is under RTE Act 2009 was amended in 2017 to ensure that all teachers acquire the minimum qualification by 31 March 2019 to improve the quality of elementary education. And Navodaya Vidyalaya was also opened, and it is the objective of Government of India that every district in India should have a Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, so that the talent from the rural area can be tapped. And another component of the education for all is to use or to broaden the technology aided teaching and learning, to upgrade and use of digital infrastructure for knowledge, higher education, Higher Education Financing Agency was established to provide sustainable financial loans for higher education like IIT students. Higher education online degree program was also launched in 2019-20 because of the COVID pandemic. In April 2019, Vidya Dan portal was launched as Diksha as a national content contribution program to seek e-learning resources. National Education Policy was launched in 2020, aiming at universalization of education for preschool to secondary level with 100% gross enrollment ratio in school education by 2030. To bring out of school 2 crore children back into the mainstream, it gives primacy to vocational education. The main focus of the new education policy initiated by Government of India in 2020 is what? It is to give focus on vocational education. China is very much ahead of us. You know, China is very much ahead of us in terms of skill formation. China is very much ahead of us. So, our focus now in 2020 new education policy is to give primacy over skill formation and give utmost importance to vocational training, so that people become skillful and they should get gainful employment. Now, 2 crore children, those children who have become dropout, they have to be brought back in the mainstream, in the educational institute, so that they can become literate. Otherwise, they will become liabilities in the coming future. Another component of SDI is skill development, and students as you know, the global economy is expected to witness a shortage of young population of around 56 million by 2020. Why it is happening so? Because you know that in most of the Western European countries, the overall population growth has become negative, particularly Russia and some other Western countries. Now, what is its effect? Fact is that shortage of young population of around 56 million, but India is lucky. Why? Because India will be the only country with a youth surplus of 40 million. So this 40 million people, youth people, are our assets, and if you want maximum output, you must have to make them skillful. And that's why Government of India has started launch Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 3.0 to aim. The aim is to skill 8 lakh candidates in 2020-21. To enhance the quality of long-term training program to provide the choice of learner, the grading of SDI has been undertaken. Another facet of skill development is integration with vocation. As I have already told you, education at both school and higher education are integrated with vocation. Unified Skill Regulatory National Council for Vocational Education and Training has been set up to make the skill ecosystem more dynamic and credible. Students, the other component of SDI in India is health for all. There has been significant improvement in the health sector. Health status of individuals as life expectancy at the birth has increased about 10 years during the period 1990 to 2015. Secondly, out of the total disease burden in India was 65% due to communicable, maternal, neonatal, nutritional disease in 1990, which was dropped to 33% in 2016. Third, malnutrition, nutritional deficiency, air pollution, behavioral and metabolic risk factors are associated with different types of disease. Announcement of National Health Policy 2017 by Government of India aimed at universal access to global health to all, to good health to all. Ayushman Bharat Yojana was launched to provide comprehensive primary sector and to provide health cover to 10.74 crore and vulnerable families up to 5 lakh per family for tertiary and secondary hospitalization. The major component of national health policy are preventive health care. Number one, preventive health care, second is health care affordability, and third is medical infrastructure. Student, as you know, that nowadays there is a stress upon opening medical colleges by Government of India and different state governments. So, what we see that 30 years back, when there were only 5 to 6 medical colleges in a state like Bihar or MP, now so many medical colleges have been established to boost up the medical infrastructure. Healthcare affordability, the kind of medical examination centers, different type of apparatus for ECG or for CT scan. These instruments have been established. These instruments have been established in different cities of the state. And so, now there is a reduction in the level of diseases in our country. As you know, the most of the communicable diseases like TB, like Kala Jar, smallpox. These communicable diseases have been completely wiped out in our country, and this is the biggest achievement. Now, friends, I switch over to water and sanitation, because Government of India has accorded Government of India has accorded a high priority to provide drinking water and sanitation in the country. You might be knowing Swachhta Abhiyan throughout the nook and corner of the country. Universal coverage of water supply has been launched. Thirdly, rural sanitation made a giant leap in the target achievement from 29% in 2014 to 100% in 2019. More than 10 crore toilets were built. Government launched Jal Jeevan Mission to enable every rural household to assure supply of potable water. So you know that open defecation has been very much reduced, not only in urban areas but also in rural areas, because of construction of so many toilets in urban as well as rural areas. This is the biggest achievement of the government. And another important component of SDI is housing for all. Students, as you know, government launched housing for all by 2022. By 2018, about 76.7% of household in the rural, about 96 in the and about 96% in the urban area had the Pakka house. By 2018, about 76.7% of the household in the rural areas were constructed by RCC, Liglo, by concrete, by cement, by iron rods. That is called RCC, Pakka house. And in urban area, the quantum was 96%. So, the policy of government is to give house to all by the end of 2022, and this is not a mean achievement. I am switching over to the suggestion for improvement of SDI in India. What are the suggestions? Number one, education and health impact on the growth of economy. As you know, economy can be boosted not only by making infrastructure or other economic activities, but social infrastructure has to be strengthened by giving boost to the social sector like education and health. So, student, education and health impact on the growth of economy, it is obvious. Second, investing human capital by way of education, skill formation, training and provision of healthcare facility enhance the productivity of the workforce and welfare of the population. This is the obvious thing, that because without strengthening the educational level, skill formation, training, provision of health care, you can't achieve optimum development in your country. If a diseased person cannot contribute maximum to the economy. So, if you want to have a healthy society, if you want optimum, maximum output in the economy, what we have to do? You have to give focus on health care, education, training, skill formation, And all these facilities enhances productivity in the society. So there are certain suggestions that we have to give for the enhancement of Human Development Index. Number one, needed to improve the quality of education, and Government of India is doing all these things, and I have already narrated you by the education policy of 2020. Lot of emphasis has been given on vocational training, for skill formation, for boosting the elementary education, for upgradation of quality of teachers. Second is to enhance the capability of delivery of services. Delivery of services. A country is known by the delivery of the services. Now, how quickly it delivers or gives delivery of services to the people. Suppose if you have started one project like Manrega, it is one of the best example of poverty alleviation program. But if you or your government officers do not abide by the provisions of Manrega, and workers are not employed, and 100 days employment are not being given to them, which is mandatory, then what will be its effect? Its effect will be that for want of the delivery of quick delivery of service, that project, that program will become nothing in the eyes of the people. So, the quick delivery of service is a second important factor. Third is expenditure on education and skill formation and health are to be enhanced. Fourth is overhauling the subsidy regime is needed. As students, you know that in our country subsidies are being distributed, but in the garb of subsidy, what happens? The needy persons are let off, and those persons who have reached to the higher officers or the person who are very much prestigious in the society, they take away the maximum benefit of subsidies. Like in the case of the agriculture sector, what we see, that the rich farmers take away maximum benefit by way of subsidy in fertilizers, pesticides, irrigation cess. All these facilities, facilities given by Government of India are cornered by rich farmers, that they are called kulaks in Punjab, Haryana. So, what is needed? It is needed, the overhauling of the subsidy regime is needed. Fourth is inclusion of needy population, exclusion of fake accounts, prevention of corruption, a stoppage of leakage, transparency, accountability are required. Government launched direct benefit transfer to farmers and needy people, 6,000 rupees per year, and these amount directly go to the beneficiary without middleman. And so this is a big boost to stop the leakage. Again, another point is need to include behavioral dimension of the targeted population. For example, you have made toilet, government have given subsidy for construction of toilet, but people are not going to their toilet, they are not using it. They go in the field for open defecation, which pollutes air. Then what is the benefit of making or constructing toilets. So we will have to give behavioral training to the targeted population, and we'll have to make them aware about the benefits of using toilets and how we can clean the environment. So there is need to behavioral training to the target population. Now, so students, strengthening the local bodies, civil society and NGO to boost social sector. Another point is need to orient private sector so that they will enable the country to use their expertise in the promotion of social infrastructure. And another point is needed to encourage information and communication technology at mass scale. As you know, nowadays the period is affected by pandemic COVID-19, and so instead of contact with one another, we can use virtual class, and by using information communication technology at mass scale, I am using this technology for you through the online class method. Need of sensitizing all stakeholders about the danger of climate change and promoting sustainable inclusive growth. Now students, need to sensitizing all stakeholders about the danger of climate change and promoting sustainable inclusive growth. We must start awareness program, sensitize people so that they understand to what kind of havoc the nature will incur upon us if there is a climatic change. So we must focus on sustainable, inclusive growth. And last but not the least, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has shown the vulnerability of India's health sector. More expenditure on this sector are needed. As you know, during the second wave of COVID-19, thousands and thousands of people died in northern India, particularly in UP and Bihar. So the entire health structure was exposed. Now, what is necessity? The necessity is to strengthen the health sector, particularly in northern India, Bihar and UP, where the density of population is too much and the health infrastructure is very much poor. So friends, health sector has to be reinforced in northern India in particular, and all India, Indian state in general. Now COVID-19 has disrupted the formal, not former. Formal education sector, there is urgent need to enhance online digital education to all. urgent need to enhance online digital education to all. To achieve the complete digitalization in education, internet facilities should be strengthened to reach nook and corner of the whole country, and availability of smart mobile phones at concessional rate to all, so that digital mode of education can reach to all. As you know, students, that because of this pandemic COVID-19, nobody knows how much time it will take to settle down. Even after vaccination, there have been certain cases reported that people have become affected by COVID. So, we must not take it lightly. We must give primacy to online classes instead of formal classes. And that can be done by strengthening internet facilities like in China. Even remote corner of China is connected with internet facilities. In our country, there has been a great leap towards the advancement of internet facilities, but much more has to be done on this front. And secondly, we will have to give a smartphone at concessional rates to the poor and needy, so that they can avail online education facilities. Students, these were our points for the suggestion for the enhancement of SDI